Thought for the day. Time is your greatest asset. Manage it wisely.
Welcome to 7 Minutes for Yourself. I'm Christina Aina, and I'm so glad you've joined me for what I believe will be 7 of the most enriching minutes of your day. Let's take this time to reconnect with ourselves and improve our well-being.
In today's episode of 7 Minutes for Yourself, we're diving into the benefits of setting your own timeline for greater productivity, regardless of the given deadline. Have a listen.
Work contracts to fit in the time we give it, or work complicates to fill in the available time. Applying this concept to time management shows us that defining a long period of time to complete an otherwise simple task ends up complicating it, extending the time frame of its completion, and at the end of the day making you lose precious hours of your available time. This time could be spent doing other more interesting tasks, advancing on a special project of your own, or simply asking around whether you can fit in your schedule other type of tasks or projects. If you have a project with a deadline 6 months from now, you will probably subdivide all of the tasks required for completion of that project across those 6 months, even if completion of that project can be achieved in 1 month only. In a way, everyone has a predisposition to stretch a task for the entirety of their available time. However, this can be incredibly unproductive. You will be robbing yourself of time to complete other tasks that wouldn't otherwise be ignored because of that stretching. And also, a lot of time spent dwelling on the same time of intellectual problems can decrease the quality of your results. When starting your project management or planning, try to ignore your deadline in the beginning. Usually in school assignments, you can have deadlines for the end of the semester, which gives you 2 to 4 months to complete your assignments. Now you should be asking questions such as how long is reasonable for this project's completion, or how many tasks should be completed for full completion of this project. This should give you a good understanding of the overall effort required to finish the whole project. After this first overview, you should already have a time frame in mind of the amount of hours required to finish your work. This number of hours will probably be quite inferior to the formal deadline of your assignment. Step number 2 is dividing your project into specific tasks required for completion, using paper or digital calendar, or my favorite Notion, which has awesome project planning templates, to input all of the tasks and subtasks in a list format and assign them a duration. Using a spreadsheet can be useful for this task, as you can automatically add the duration of all tasks to achieve a final project completion timeframe. For instance, let us assume that the total amount of work required to finish this project is 40 hours. If you divide those 40 hours for 10 working days, you can finish the whole project in under 2 weeks, if you commit to working on it in a focused state for 4 hours a day. If you can't commit to 4 hours a day, you can double that amount and commit to work 2 hours a day for 4 weeks, during working days only, of course. This is roughly a month, which means that suddenly you will be able to finish your project in 1 month instead of 3 or 4. A good way to hack your way through Parkinson's law is faking a deadline of your own. If your boss or professor tells you the project is due January 2020, tell yourself the project is due November 2019. Establish a hard, optimistic boundary in your own schedule and work with your completion timeframe around that optimistic boundary. If you have to push it a few days or a couple of weeks further, do it if you feel like it will be important to increase the overall quality of your project. Also be brutal in establishing that fake deadline in your calendar, planner, and even in your conversations with colleagues or classmates. Get someone that you respect, like a friend or a parent, to make you accountable for the deadline by informing them that said deadline is essential for the success of your project. After you have all of this figured out, it's time to schedule or calendar block all of these project sessions across the time frame you just created. And here you have to be really disciplined. Think of your project planning as immovable as your work or class schedule. Being consistent and increasing your progress regularly and according to your plan is more important than doing a lot of unfocused work during the whole weekend. However, while being disciplined is essential to make sure you comply with your own schedule, it's also fundamental to be flexible when considering any adaptations you need to make while you are working on your project. While planning the duration of each one of the tasks required to complete your work is important, Sometimes it's very hard to predict exactly how long you will take for each one of those steps. So in that sense, adapting your schedule meanwhile will be very important to guarantee the quality of your final work, and leaving enough buffer time for revision will make your project top-notch when you turn it in. While Parkinson's law shows us that we have a natural tendency to procrastinate when given a long period of time to work on something, it shouldn't be used as a justification for piling on an unhealthy amount of work. While awareness of this tendency is important to manage your work, a healthy work-life balance is even more important. Stretching a project for an unnecessary amount of time can be more beneficial to you than packing your schedule with work and gaining even more unnecessary amounts of stress and eventual burnout.
That concludes today's episode of 7 Minutes for Yourself. Please take a moment to rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts. Today and every day with your kiddo is a gift. Enjoy it. Thanks for tuning in.